For me, the perfect garden is all about privacy, relaxing in your own space without your neighbours looking in, and for that, you need some pretty substantial hedges. We all know what they look like, very magnificent, but how do you achieve that? Well, a lot of that is ongoing maintenance, and that starts when the plants first go in the ground. Now, one of the biggest problems people have when they're trying to achieve a nice big hedge is they leave their pruning far too long, and that's understandable. You want to get the height, so they think, let it grow up, and then I'll start pruning it. But if you start pruning your hedge as soon as it goes in, you'll increase the growth rate and you'll have a much denser hedge. But where do you start? So if you're looking at something like this, our heights are all up and down. So I'm going to pick somewhere roughly in the middle and take the plant off all the way through. And I'm going to prune it in a very specific space. You see this area through here, we've got a long stem, and at the base of the stem is 2 buds. You want to just prune off that, and that will force all the energy of the plant to make those leaves bigger and denser. And that's exactly what's happened in here. You'll see where the pruning point is, and these 3 stems have really taken off, but they've got a little bit long, so I'm going to prune those back to the same height as before.
I get a little crazy, oh, it doesn't even faze me now. I get a little crazy, and it feels so good.
Now, the more you prune, the denser your hedge will be, because you'll notice the distance between the leaves will get shorter and shorter. If you let them get too long, well, then it starts to get leggy. So even if you're taking off the tiniest amount, it's going to make a big difference. The last thing you want to do is look at the side of your hedge. Now, this is a viburnum and it will get quite large. So this branch here is really going to take off. So I'm going to prune it back in line with my sandstone capping. Once I've done that, all I really need is to give it a bit of time. As this grows, I'll keep pruning it. The more I prune it, the longer it will take to get to the finished height, but the denser the hedge will be, so it depends on what look you want. Now, these pruning tips work for any type of hedging plant. The only thing I will advise is you do need a little bit of patience. When you're looking at giving your garden a bit of an upgrade, it's a good idea to look at different styles of garden. And one style that's becoming increasingly popular is the Mediterranean garden. And for good reason. They share a similar climate and a love for outdoor living. We are in what is normally a sun-drenched courtyard, and it is crying out for an upgrade, and a Mediterranean one at that. So there's a few things we can do. First thing, we need some shade. So I'm going to put in some posts, some wires, and we can get some lovely climbers in. Then we're going to lift some pavers. That's going to save us some money, create some interest. We're then going to paint the fences and this block wall here, and then finish it all off with some pots and plants. But first things first, we've got to get this cleared out. For our overhead structure, I'm going to make it as simple as possible. I'm using 100 by 100 rougher header pine posts. These are incredibly cheap. They look big, but don't be put off. They're really easy to work with. They're actually quite nice and lightweight. We're going to have 4 posts, so we're digging 4 holes. We're going down about 600 to 800 mil. Each post is going to have about 2 or 3 bags of concrete around it. Now that the concrete has completely set around our posts, it's time to cut the pieces of timber for the roof. To stop our posts from twisting and warping as they age, we're using some threaded rod, also known as booker rod. So we've got 1 nut on this side. I'll knock it through, and then I'll tighten the nut on the other side to keep it nice and secure, and Scotty will do the same down the other end.
Put your hands in the air, and we can dance until the sunrise. Summer bodies everywhere. Get a little
With all our structures built, it's time to brighten things up with some paint, and this is a great way to add in the Mediterranean vibe. For the fence, I've gone a light colour with a sort of peachy salmon tone to it to add some warmth. I'll continue that colour onto our pergola as well. But this big wall you can see in front of me, that's going high drama. We're going for a sage colour. Now I'm using a sprayer on the fence. It's much quicker when you've got a lapped and capped fence because there's loads of corners that this gets into. If you are using one though, you do need to protect your neighbours. That's why I've got this, and that's why I've got myself a mark. Mediterranean planting schemes can either be quite relaxed and informal, or they can be quite structured and formal as well, or they can be a lovely combination of the two. I've started with large olive trees. Now, olive trees like hot baking sun, so they're going to get the reflective light off the fence, and they like free draining soil. So what I've done is raised them up out of the ground. That's called perching them, and that means the water gets away. I'm playing on that formality and informality that the olives bring by bringing in things like these teucrium, which can be clipped into a ball, and then some softness in things like this agastache and the salvia in the back. And I'm also continuing the rounded shrub shape with the Crassula Max Cook. On the other side of the garden, we've got a classic Mediterranean plant, the bay tree, and I'm planting that as a hedge just to give a bit of formality, but so you can use it in cooking as well.
Satisfaction ain't a dirty word. A little get together feels good sometimes. Don't wanna sleep on this and let it go.
And nothing says the Mediterranean more than aromatic herbs. So we've got lemon thyme, normal garden thyme, and rosemary, which are all going to creep out onto this paving and release their scent as you walk by. Key feature in the Mediterranean garden is, of course, potted plants. And it's usually an eclectic mix. You don't go for just white pots. You can add pops of colour, different shapes, different sizes. In this big one, I've got this huge feature tree. Now, this is a mandarin citrus, again, ties in perfectly with the Mediterranean theme, and I've gone for instant impact here. And around the rest of the garden, I'm going to be using clusters of pots. No matter what type of garden you're doing, it's really important to think about the finer details, because they'll mean if the theme is a success or a failure. It comes down to things like the mulch. Here, we're going for a fine river pebble because it completes the Mediterranean look. If you're looking for a cost-effective way to get greenery up on the roof of your pergola, you can't go past stainless steel wires. They're incredibly durable and easy to install. We're just going to crisscross them through here, and we're using 2 bougainvilleas to climb up. Now, it's really important you have this vertical wire to speed up the time it takes to get from the ground up to the top. What is not to love about a Mediterranean garden? They are easy on the eye, they're low maintenance, and they're drought tolerant. And the best part is, you don't need to travel any further than your back door.